In this video, we're going to be replacing our rear brake pads and rotors. To get started on our job, let's make our way to one of the back wheels. We're going to safely raise and support the rear of the vehicle so the wheel's off the ground. After that, continue on by removing all 5 of your 21mm lug nuts and then the wheel. Now with the wheel off, we have a nice clear view of our brake caliper. That's this area right here. We're going to continue on to removing each of our 14mm caliper slider bolts. You'll find one down low and one directly above it. We'll leave this one in here a little bit, continue on to the second. Now we can get both of these out of here. Inspect your hardware as you remove it. Make sure it's still reusable. It's not rotted or damaged in any way. Assuming it looks good, set it aside. Now we can carefully grab onto that caliper. We'll give it a little wiggle and remove it from the vehicle. The next thing you want to pay attention to is this area right here. This is considered the caliper piston. You want to make sure that it functions properly. We'll carefully press this in all the way until it bottoms out. There we are. Now give that a quick inspection. We're looking to see if you see any fluid. If you see any type of liquid here, it's more than likely brake fluid, in which case you'd have to replace the caliper. Ours looks good, so I'll set this aside, making sure I'm putting no pressure on my flex hose. Now we can start removing each of our brake pads. As you pop those out of there, you want to give them a quick inspection. Make sure it doesn't look like they're worn at an angle. If they're worn at a severe angle, typically that means that either the pad was frozen in the bracket or one of your caliper slider pins is frozen. Now we can start removing the caliper bracket from the area. Looking at this, you're going to find that you have two 14mm mounting bolts that hold it in place. Remove the pair. Once you have both of those off of there, continue by removing the bracket. We'll give this a quick inspection and set it aside. We'll finish cleaning this later. Carefully grab onto that rotor and remove it from the vehicle. With the rotor out of the way, it's a good idea to inspect your emergency brake shoes located directly behind that area. You have one across the back, and you'll also have a second one across the front. Assuming those look good, we'll continue on to cleaning our hub. When you're cleaning this, it's important to make sure that you clean the entire mating surface where your brand new rotor is going to sit. Once you have the main area cleaned down, make sure you also clean the area in between the studs and the center of the hub. We'll give it a little rinse with some parts cleaner. Also make sure you clean down that emergency brake shoe area as well. Let's apply some copper never-sees. Now it's time to put our brake rotor on here. Once you get it on there, you want to make sure it can spin freely. If it feels as though it does not want to spin, you need to make sure that you de-adjust your emergency brake shoes. we'll take one of our lug nuts and put it in place to hold the rotor so it does not move around while we continue. Now it's time to get ready to clean up our caliper brackets. Now for the caliper bracket, you're going to notice each side has a tin. Remove that tin. Just go ahead and give that a quick inspection, set it aside. We'll do the same to the other side. Once you have both of those off of there, continue on to each of your caliper slider pins. Generally for these, you just grab onto the metal aspect, give it a little twist, and lift it up and off. As you remove it, make sure you do not damage the boot. I'm going to try to slide the boot down as I lift the pin up. Let's get this broken free. Now, once you have that out of there, make sure that you clean it down and give it a thorough inspection. You want to make sure that the entire shaft is nice and clean and all the way up into this groove. Make sure you don't see any rust, debris, or even rot pits. Okay, I've got this cleaned down. I'm giving it a thorough inspection. It looks clean and smooth. I'll set this aside and do the exact same thing to the other one. Once you've cleaned and inspected both of your caliper slider pins, move along to your caliper slider boots. Now we're going to have to take these out of here so we can give them a thorough inspection and clean the bracket properly. To get this out, you just want to flex it to one side. Use a small pocket screwdriver and carefully get in between the boot and the caliper bracket. Be extremely careful not to damage your boot. Once you have the boot out of there, give it a quick squeeze. You want to make sure it's still soft and pliable and it's not torn, worn, or damaged in any way. After that, the next thing you want to do is continue on by cleaning out the inside. That can very easily be done by using a rag. Twist it, put it right through, and then just make sure you rub it along the inside to clean out any existing dirt or debris that's located inside. Never use any type of parts solvent for this. Once you feel as though you have it properly cleaned, move along to doing the exact same thing to the other side. Now it's going to be time to clean up the rest of the bracket. We're going to clean up the 4 areas where those 2 tins were located. Now it's going to be time to put your bracket over a collection bucket. We're going to use some part solvent and spray inside each of our caliper slider ports. Once we do that, we'll continue on with a bore brush to make sure we clean out any dirt or debris that might be located inside. Give them a little rinse, let them dry. Now let's continue on with some high temperature caliper grease. You want to make sure you put some down inside each of your caliper slider ports. Now once you have it coated on the inside, continue on with your caliper slider boots. Looking at the boot, you can see that one side has this ridge and the other side does not. The side with the ridge needs to carefully get pressed into this area. Now, once you feel as though you have it in there, just go ahead and give it a little twist. You want to make sure that it's definitely seated perfectly. You don't want any dirt or moisture making its way into this area. After that, continue on, do the exact same thing to the other side. Now it's going to be time to move along to the caliper slider pins themselves. Make sure that you coat the entire shanked area here. Once you have all that lubricated, continue on all the way up into this ridge, very close to where my fingers are. That's where the boot's going to sit. And once again, by lubricating this area, it'll help keep moisture and debris out. Go ahead and slide that right into that caliper slider boot. Press it in as far as you can. After that, we'll give this a little twist to make sure it's completely situated, and also give it a little tug. I want to make sure that it doesn't slide out with the boot. Assuming that feels good, go ahead and wipe it down and then do the exact same thing to the other side. All right, so at this point, we've got the caliper sliders in place. Let's continue on with that high temperature caliper lube. The areas that you want to lubricate now are those 4 areas on the bracket where the 2 tins are supposed to sit. By putting lubricant here, it's going to help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. At this point, we're ready to start installing our tins. Now, what you'll notice is in your brake pad kit, it came with a whole bunch of extra tins. Now what you need to do is look at the very center of the tins, in between the 2 ears. What you're going to find is that 4 of the tins have a thin slot, and then the other 4 will have a wider slot. Go ahead and match it up with your bracket. Find the one that matches. Typically for this, it's going to be the one with the thinner slot. Now with that said, we can start putting this in place. Have a look at the back side of the tin. You're going to find the locking ears. That's important to note because as we press this in, I'm going to have my index finger in that area and gently slide it up and into the bracket to lock it in place. I'll press it in completely, make sure it's secure, and do the same on the other side. Now before we get back over to the vehicle, let's have a look at a set of our brand new pads. Grab 2 of them. Now in your kit, you're also going to find that you have 4 wear indicators. You need 2 for each side of the vehicle. Now for those wear indicators, you want to make sure you put them along one of the ears on the brake pad. You can see that there's a little slot and it has an area for the locating tab on the wear indicator. Let's take that wear indicator and we're going to put it in place. Looking at it, you can see that it has a little ear that's supposed to protrude down. That's supposed to face towards the pad material. We'll take this and slide it into position. Now once you have it on there, you want to make sure that you have your second pad meet to meet, just like this. We'll take that second wear indicator and we're going to place it so the tab is facing towards the meet once again. You'll notice I have them both on opposite sides of the pads. Now we can get ready for our installation. Now back over at the vehicle, we can continue on by installing our caliper bracket. Once you feel as though you have it in place, continue on with your 2 mounting bolts. Torque this to 43 foot-pounds. Now it's time to install our ceramic brake pads. When you do this, you want to make sure you have your wear indicators facing up. As you slide them in there, make sure they can move freely. If you have to hammer them in there, typically it means you did not clean the brackets well enough. Now it's going to be time to install that caliper. Before you do, let's continue on with some high temperature caliper grease. We're going to go right along the center aspect of the piston, right here. Once you have that well lubricated, continue on to the back side of each of the ears. This is going to help with vibration dampening and noise reduction. Slide that right over that caliper bracket and pads. Start in each of your mounting bolts, snug them up, and then torque them to 20 foot-pounds. Now that we have the caliper on there, let's continue on to this area here. You'll notice in your old rotor, you should have a rubber grommet. On that rubber grommet, you can see that it has this area that goes straight across all the way around. Let's press this into the rotor. Make sure it's secured. Once you've done that, continue on to your lug nut. We'll remove this, grab the wheel, put it on there, bottom it out. Now that we have the wheel up on here, we're going to go ahead and bottom out all of our lug nuts. We'll get the wheel safely back on the ground and then torque each of the lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. With the wheel safely on the ground, let's torque these in a crisscross manner. Torqued. Okay friends, I showed you how to do one side of your rear brake job. Now at this point, what you're going to want to do is make sure you do the exact same thing on the other side of the vehicle. After that, go ahead and hop in the passenger compartment. Pump up the brake pedal till it's nice and firm. Once you've done that, make your way under the hood to the driver's side. Right along the firewall, you're going to find the master cylinder. That's where your brake fluid's located. Double check that level. If it's low, top it off with .3 brake fluid. After that, close the hood, take it for a road test. Thanks for watching.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.